Okay, so thank you to everyone who is here for being here 5 o'clock on a weeknight. This forum is for candidates for the Board of Regents to the Nevada System of Higher Education, otherwise known as NSHE, and it's being hosted by the Nevada Faculty Alliance. I am Chantel Marshall, the Vice President of NFA and faculty here at Nevada State University. Before we begin our event, I'd like to start with what we like to do at the beginning of all of our events to make sure that our whole alliance is inclusive and is creating safe spaces. The Nevada Faculty Alliance is committed to providing an environment free from discrimination and harassment. We ask all participants here today to embrace our values of equity and equality and conduct themselves in a manner consistent with those values during today's discussion. At every NFA event, there is a designee as the first point of contact for anyone who thinks they have experienced discriminatory, harassing, or otherwise unacceptable behavior. We urge you to contact the designee if you have any concerns. Today's designee is Cheryl Cardoza, and you can email Cheryl at cheryl.cardoza@nevadafacultyalliance.org if you would like to mention anything that happened today. All right. Today we have two candidates for Regent District 12, which is here in Southern Nevada and includes my institution of Nevada State University. And our two candidates for today are the current Regent Amy Carvalho and Dr. Jonathan Maxham. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We have 8 questions as well as time for opening and closing statements from each candidate. We ask that each candidate take no more than 2 minutes per answer. I'll again wave my hands if we're getting over the 2 minutes and may jump in if we're going well over time. If anyone from the audience would like to ask any questions, we may have time for those at the end. Please send them via direct message to either myself or to Jim or to Kent, and we can ask them at that time. And since we have a lot of questions, we'll go back and forth on which candidate will answer first. And so I will be asking questions along with Jim Yu, our president, and Kent Urban, our past president. All right, so I will
take it over. And first of all, there's a discrepancy between the slide and what you said about which district it is.
Oh.
So I think the candidates know best. So what district is this, 12 or 4?
12.
12. Okay,
12.
So we are in District 12. Thank you very much.
My bad on the slide. I apologize.
Okay. So this will be your opening statement with 2 minutes each, and Amy Carvalho will go first. So for your opening statement, please tell us about your experience and background that qualify you to serve on the Board of Regents, especially your experience in higher education. What makes you the most qualified candidate? So, Amy.
All right, thank you. So I'm Amy Carvalho. I've been on the board for almost 5.5 years now. I'm the current chair. I also had 3 years as the chair of the Business, Finance, and Facilities Committee, which I was very proud of my time on that committee for. I also served on the COLA committee that advocated for faculty increases in terms of COLA, and also performance pay committee. I was the chair of that as well a few years ago. I am also a proud product of the Clark County School District, College of Southern Nevada, UNLV, and Western Governors University. So I have deep knowledge in terms of being a student. I am actually taking a class right now at UNLV as well. I understand what it's like to be a parent of a college student, and I have been a business owner. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and I've felt very strongly about giving back to my community, which is why I decided to run for Regent about 6 years ago. I'm very proud of my voting history on the board and my willingness to work with all of my colleagues on the board, and really engaged in all of our institutions. throughout the system. So I believe that I have the knowledge and experience to continue in this position. I've strongly advocated for transparency, shared governance, and a strong system that we have now in Nevada, and I hope to continue in that role. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. John, same question, opening statement.
So yeah, basically I'm new to politics. I'm new to even serving because I served this country in the Air Force for 11 years. I'm a doctor local in this community and recognize that I've lived higher education. My mom taught for 29 years, so I guess I have a little bit of education in my blood. And I recognize that there's challenges, but with all challenges, there's opportunity. And I'm hoping to create a better future for our kids and my kids. Specifically, I'd like to give back to the community because I've had time to be a doctor, to raise, I have a 4-year-old now and a 1-year-old. And I'm just, I think it's an opportunity at this time to give back to the community and serve higher education, relate to those students, and impact their health and wellness all at the same time, ensuring their safety.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I will ask the next question, and John, you will please respond first. Can you explain what you believe the role of higher education is in Nevada and how this informs your priorities for the Nevada system of higher education and the Board of Regents?
So, higher education, if you have students that are progressing in life, they're essential for their advancement individually. They have it's responsible for economic development and the overall well-being of society. We can provide financial gains, focusing on health, looking at Las Vegas and Nevada specifically. There's big tourism, big hospitality, big healthcare, and big technology. And, with the advancements that are forthcoming and right around the corner, they're going to impact all 4 of those, areas. So I feel like higher education is a catalyst for economic development that propels things from there.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Sorry, I was muted. I definitely agree with John in that regard. I think first and foremost, higher education in Nevada and really worldwide is for the common good. It is here to educate our citizens, not only those just coming out of high school, but our residents of any age who can go back to school to learn about whether it's core curriculum or some of the big issues that we deal with these days with diversity, differences of thought. I think higher education is the space to have those discussions that are respectful and that challenge our notions as they are today so we can move forward. I also agree that it is the workforce powerhouse in Nevada. Higher education specifically in Nevada is here to make sure that our residents are well equipped to go into the workforce, whether that's nurses, teachers, doctors, whatever it might be. We are first line in making sure that our workforce is prepared and ready to meet the needs of our state.
Very good, thank you.
Kent, you're muted.
All right, I see I'm up again. Next question is, while state funds, the state funds COLA, cost of living adjustment increases for most agencies at 80%. It only funds 64% for NSHE employees, putting NSHE institutions at a disadvantage and requiring internal budget reallocations to cover the difference. In what practical ways can NSHE or the regents convince the legislature and governor to make higher education a higher priority for funding? And Amy will go first.
Thanks for that question. That's a big one. We grapple with that. I feel like at every legislative session in terms of communicating our value. I would say that it's important for us to advocate very strongly that state funds should go where our priorities are. Obviously, a priority needs to be higher education. Funding has declined over the last, 15, 20 years. And I know that that's been a frustration for all of us. I think that it's very important for our legislators to understand that the return on investment in higher education is probably one of the best investments you can make. Unfortunately, I think at the last legislative session, it was difficult to hear that the legislature, in some ways, in my mind, prioritized sports funding over education. I hope that in future sessions, we don't have that as kind of a sticking point. But I think it's very important. If students don't fit the bill, somebody's going to have to, and we obviously don't want that to fall at our students' feet. We already have increases in tuition every year, and that's difficult on our students. I believe that our state needs to also help with that. In terms of where our state falls, we don't get the funding that we need. Other states do a really good job with that. There's others, I think of Arizona, who don't fund higher education at a very high level, but they have a different structure than we do, and their institutions seem to be fighting for those dollars in ways that I don't think we want for our students. So I think it's really important for us to speak with one voice, especially at our state legislature, and really communicate that value of what higher education means for an educated workforce.
Okay, thank you. John, same question about funding from the legislature and how to make it a priority.
Sorry, my video goes in and out. Yeah, so I agree with Amy. But basically, I'll attempt one more time. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on. So I agree with Amy that I was shocked to hear that the legislative and just the allocation of funds wasn't that great for higher education, but if the lower segments it was higher. And I think it comes down to, you have to be innovative with what you choose to allocate for. And yes, sports, unfortunately, that runs a lot of America, but I feel like there's other ways that you can generate revenue and income that's not necessarily the students themselves. Hopefully, Amy and I both are volunteering, and she's been volunteering 5.5 years, giving back to her community. And it's time that the community supports its community in ways. So, we can look to legislation, but we can also look to alternative sources and reaching out to personal businesses. And, hopefully people have it in their heart to give back to, if it's not their alma mater, it can be their community and what they stand for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, figure it out. I will be asking the next question, which is a bit long. It just has a lot of context to it. So in 2023, as we all probably know, the board approved 12% and then 11% COLAs for NSHE faculty for 2023 and then 2024. However, this was after years of COLAs well below those of state employees in collective bargaining units, making it difficult to recruit and retain high-quality faculty. That seems to be an invitation to move to collective bargaining for all faculty at the state level. What is your view of the value of collective bargaining at NSHE? And John, we'll let you answer this first.
Yeah, so the collective bargaining, that's essentially unionization, right? And for the community. So it's a complex issue. There's pros and cons to both. I had a few notes that I was looking for. Let's see. Should have highlighted the question. Oh yeah. So basically supporters for collective bargaining state, it can lead to fair wages, which I think is true, benefits, working conditions, and employees. But then the counter is that it can add to overall costs. So, I think it's complex, and the decision whether you support it or whether you, because we all, we've lived life is gray. There can be potential benefits and drawbacks, and it's important that we just have an open conversation explaining it all. I haven't lived it, so I have less experience, but I would just say there can be pros and cons to both of them.
Great. So Amy, same question. What is your view of the value of collective bargaining to NSHE?
Sure. So I know that this is probably one of NFA's major focus areas right now. And I truly understand it. I have not been in a situation where I've had a job that was part of a union environment. So I can't tell you from personal experience, like John mentioned, but I see how it has helped within NSHE and increased wages, increased the value of our positions in ways that probably could not have been the case if you didn't have the voice of the collective bargaining agreement. In terms of what we've been talking about recently with collective bargaining, especially with faculty, is the importance of all faculty having moving with one voice. I think that's the foundation of collective bargaining is that the majority agrees on what you're negotiating and the direction of that. And I would just want to make sure that all faculty, or majority of the faculty, all is, coming from your statistics class, Chantel, that's probably not the right word, but a majority would have to support that. And I think that that's very important in this situation. I do support collective bargaining, and I would like to see us move forward in a direction that is mutually beneficial for everyone.
Great. I do have a follow-up to that question. Same order. So CSN is a campus that currently has a collective bargaining unit. Their initial negotiations took over 3 years to reach an agreement. And we're wondering your thoughts on arbitration. So as a way of moving the parties to a conclusion more quickly than 3 years, would you support binding arbitration upon impasse? So, John, I'll.
I think the gist of that question is collective bargaining was wasteful, kind of led to increased costs, and it took 3.5 years, and we may or may not still have resolution. So as far as the last words that you mentioned, I think there's a compromise like anything in life. And you could have unionization and representation, but at some point, maybe I don't know what that term is, if it's a year or 6 months, because I don't know how slow these processes are. I'm from the military, and if we wanted anything done right, it took years to get it done. And so I understand that, but I would say 3.5 years seems a little extreme, and there's probably some compromise in between. And to move it along, have that arbitration to take over when collective bargaining failed.
Amy, same follow-up.
Yeah, 3.5 years is too long to negotiate on any collective bargaining agreement. And you know that there's a lot that goes with any of these collective bargaining agreements in terms of legalese and you know, all the nuances to it. But on the whole, I would definitely agree with binding arbitration if it got to a point where there was some sort of impasse. I think that's only fair for those who are negotiating.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Amy, my question will be for you first. Most candidates have told us that the regents should hire good chancellors and good presidents and let them run the institutions without micromanaging from the regents. But the Board of Regents tend to only get their reports filtered through the presidents and the chancellor with little, if any, independent validation from, you know, the boots on the ground at the colleges. As a regent, how will you monitor how the chancellor and presidents are performing their jobs? And importantly, how will you get information that may not necessarily come by way of their offices?
That's a good question. And I think that's been something that's been top of mind for a lot of regents lately. I will say in answer to that, one of the areas that I think has helped is the LCB audit. I think that has shown a light on areas where we can do a better job, and also new ways of reporting. I agree with you that sometimes reports would have come to us that are not complete or not to the level that we have always wanted. I've been an advocate for getting more robust reporting. I also think that this is definitely an area that can use more shared governance. I think it's important to have the constituents at the table to make sure that reporting is done in a way that is open and transparent, and that may mean that you have those from the faculty senate involved, or student leadership, and I welcome audits of our system. And I think, like I said just earlier, that the LCB audit has helped us to open up new areas of reporting in terms of clearly defining what reports should look like and include. And I'm all for revamping reports and financials in a way that gives regents the most information. I think I think the pendulum has swung in both directions, where there have been times where the system office has been strongly, I would say, defensive of reporting, and then there have been other times where it hasn't been that. And I think we need to find that happy medium. I'd also say that chancellors and presidents are really, at the end of the day, are subject matter experts in these areas, and we also have to work diligently to make sure that we have open lines of communication and trust among regents, the chancellors, and presidents. And that's difficult to put in policy, but it's very important in terms of working relationships.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yes, so is that basically saying that there has not been equal communication on both sides before I answer?
Well,
Since I'm not really involved.
if I can give you an example, there are times when we as officers of NFA will meet with regents and we'll describe a circumstance at one of our campuses or across, a variety of campuses. And the regents will be taken somewhat by surprise because the information that they had been receiving primarily through the presidents on the campuses were not relaying the full picture, at least from our point of view.
Oh, yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm from the military, so I used to always call that the ivory tower. And then the people with boots on the ground, they always had difficulty conveying the message or relaying it. So, obviously there needs to be oversight and we need accountability. But on top of that, these people, like Amy was suggesting, they were placed in place, and so they need their autonomy. So we ultimately just need the collaboration between the ivory tower and boots on the ground so that we can make informed decisions. And as far as an audit, I love the audit idea in many aspects of government institutions, because we just don't know what's happening until you really look at it. So I would support more oversight and still giving, because it sounds to me the pendulum is towards the chancellors having more power, and I think there should be a little more leeway so that there's oversight and collaboration.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, this question will be for John first. The NSHE code affirms the importance of academic freedom and tenure. Please explain your understanding of academic freedom and tenure in higher education. What is the value of academic and freedom and tenure for a system of higher education? John?
So basically, we're in America, and so we're free. And the academic freedom and tenure was the idea that you could have free thought, that you could have the ability to think the way you wanted to think, as long as it did not infringe on the rights of others. And to me, that's where education is powerful, because you bring different minds together and they see things oppositely, but they discuss it in a rational way. And then if they're listening, the one party will learn from the other party. So I think to have that freedom and tenure for people to express themselves in a professional manner is obviously essential to what education is and was and should be again.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Sure. I see academic freedom as the foundation on which faculty members go about their roles as educators and as researchers in our institutions. It provides protection so that faculty members can do research and can teach in ways that they don't feel that they are being that their jobs could be in jeopardy for any reasons based on their research or their views on certain areas. And I think that tenure is that expression of academic freedom, so that it gives that protection to be able to teach and to research those areas that are important and that you all have become experts in. I think that it's just a cornerstone of higher education generally, and I will do everything that I can in my power to protect that. I think that without academic freedom, our institutions would not be what they are. And I think that there are times where I feel that academic freedom has been under fire. And I think it's very important for all of us to support that protection going forward.
Okay, I do have a follow-up. So along with academic freedom is the concept of shared governance, and that is that it's the faculty who have the expertise in academic matters in particular. So in that light, what decisions should be left to the faculty versus the policies set by the Board of Regents? John? Where you line?
Yeah, so I mean, every issue could have different complexities, but like the old saying was, if you had an issue, go talk to the person that you had the issue with first, and then try to settle. What things should go to the regent? You know, I'd need an example to be able to explain that, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We should represent every culture, every nation, you know, especially in Vegas. We're very diverse. I was from the Air Force, so I grew up in a diverse situation. I moved away from South Carolina, and I've just always learned, talk to the other person and hear their side and see their side. The regent should get involved when the day-to-day is not being run efficiently and is jeopardizing the you know, the student's education or the faculty's ability to teach.
Okay, same question, Annie. What decisions should be left to the faculty versus policy set by the board?
Well, I certainly feel that programming and curriculum should be at the institution level and perhaps at the college department unit level. That I don't think that that's something that regents should get involved in, except to oversee the accreditation or the financial aspects of it. I think our ARSA committee does a good job of that, where our academic side of our institutions brings those ideas and those agenda items to that committee. But I think it is very important for regents to understand that the education and the teaching of students is not our expertise nor our job at all. And I think it's very important for us to understand our lane in that regard. In terms of academics, that should be left to the institutions, and make sure that faculty have that very, very strong voice in those decisions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I have the next question. This question is in light of what happened at UNLV at the end of last semester. In that event, faculty of color were the targets of awful violence that erupted at UNLV's campus in December. Whether it was due to a racist motivation or not, NSHE faculty of color were definitely rattled. So the question is, how do you propose to keep all faculty safe in an environment where there are lists of faculty kept by extremist hate groups and faculty realize they may be harassed when teaching on topics that are considered controversial? And so Amy, you can answer first.
Okay, well, everything that happened on December 6th and during that time was just awful. Obviously, it was a very difficult time for all of us involved with our NSHE institutions. I think it's important for all of our faculty, all of our students, everyone in our campus communities to feel safe. And I know that some didn't at the time. And that breaks my heart, just to be honest. That hurts me when people don't feel safe in our institutions. I think what's important is to make sure that we stand up to that, and to do that, we need to lend our voices to this discussion of non-hate and understanding that institutions of higher learning are safe places for everyone. That's critical on our campuses. And that also goes towards the comment about academic freedom, that our faculty members, our employees must feel safe to voice their concerns and their views on these items. And I hope that going forward, we can continue that conversation to make sure that they are places of acceptance and inclusion for everyone.
Thank you. John, same question.
And can you repeat the last part of it?
I can. How do you propose to keep all faculty safe in an environment where there are lists of faculty kept by extremist hate groups and faculty realize they may be harassed when teaching topics that are considered controversial?
Yeah, so this just comes down to, being human. I remember that quote back in the 90s, can't we all just get along? And it was a horrific day. I had a professor friend, and, he wasn't directly involved, but obviously indirectly. But you just need awareness. You need awareness that people can, if they feel that they're being targeted, that they have a safe space to go to. I think you need to enhance security measures. I know that's difficult because money is limited in this day and age, but having campus police can be helpful. Having emergency preparedness training so that something is to happen when it occurs. And then mental health resources are another aspect. And then just having overall engagement and campus-wide communication, that when these things occur, they don't occur usually overnight. There's some type of event that precedes it, that then it bubbles up and bubbles over. And we just need to collectively come together so that we can deal with these issues. And then when a hate group or message is sent, I think there should be obviously an investigation. You're proven innocent until you're not, but innocent until proven guilty. But there needs to be some type of a punishment or ramification in order to curb that behavior. And then just safety assessments in general.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question is mine, and John, this will go to you first. The majority of students at NSHE come from first generation and historically minoritized backgrounds. What initiatives and supports do you think are crucial to help with recruitment and retention of these students?
So, what I read from UNLV specifically is it's very diverse. I think you just have to have the openness and the teachers and the curriculum that attracts a wide array of students. And when you're there, I like the golden rule: treat others as you would have others, treat you. I believe that we all need to treat human to human, and that if there's an individual, if they feel something, then they need to be heard. And if they have something occur to them, then it needs to be dealt with. I think the world will get more diverse as we go along, not homogenous. So we simply need to discuss the issues at hand and deal with them, openly and forefrontly, so that they don't bubble over.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Thanks. So I think it is really it's an interesting dynamic that when I first got into my role as a regent, I saw the difference between what our campuses are like today versus like when I graduated from UNLV several years ago. I feel that our campuses are much more supportive and inclusive in a lot of ways. I think when I was in high school, it was kind of like, when you go to college, you better pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just figure it out because nobody else is going to help you. And to a first generation student like me, that was pretty scary, and I think I honestly, I think that's part of the reason why it took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree, is because I didn't know how to navigate all of this. I was in this on my own. So I know, as somebody who had to do it all by myself, how hard it is. And so I am all for support services for our students, making sure that they have transportation, food, childcare when they need it. Those things are so important to me now as a regent, and as somebody who really wants to encourage our next generation to be successful in college. You just can't do it without a lot more than just going into a classroom and sitting down and taking notes for 3 hours a week. It doesn't work that way anymore. I also think it's really important that we advocate for employees who look like our students. I think that is so important. Again, if you are a first generation student, and all you see are people around you that don't look like you, I don't know how much you're going to feel like you really want to be there. I am proud of our institutions, and the work that you all do to advocate for that as well. And so I think it's very important to see what you want to be and to have that support all around you in so many different ways. So I know it takes money for our support structure at our institutions, and I think that this is an area that our community has really helped in a lot of ways as well. We've gotten good support from our communities to do this for our students, and I would I'll be the first one to ask for more money from our community for our students.
All right, thank you.
At this point, I would just like to jump in and remind the folks in the meeting that if you do have a question that you'd like us to ask before we wrap this up, send it to myself or Jim or Kent. And we will be happy to ask towards the end, because we don't actually have a lot of questions left, but we do have one from Kent coming up.
Okay, thank you. This next question is about the NC governance structure. As you know, ballot question 1 is on the ballot in November. If approved by the voters, it will remove the Board of Regents from the Constitution. The question is, if there were no constitutional or statutory limitations, what changes to NC governance or structure would you support and why? And this goes to Amy first.
I've been asked the similar question, but this one was a little bit different than what I expected. So keeping us on our toes, I appreciate that. Wow, if I could make the rules, maybe I would say that then this may be a controversial answer, and I get along very well with all of my colleagues on the board, but I do think it's very important, if you're going to be a regent, you know what it means to finish that that line with a degree in your hand, whatever that may look like, you know, or well, I would say a degree. I think it's important, whether it's associate's degree or a you know, an MD, whatever. I think that would be important. I think it would also be helpful to have some sort of background in financial management, although that's a big one because the NC budget is extremely large and complex. Our funding structure is not one that you get the first time you learn about it, I would say, at least not for me. But having some sort of understanding of budgeting and money management, I think that would be very helpful. And like I said, some sort of background in higher education would be very helpful to someone who's in this role. Yeah, I think it's difficult to understand it if you haven't been through it.
Okay, John, and again, the question is, if there were no limitations as far as laws, what changes to NC governance or structure would you support and why?
Sure. So, the changes to the structure. Okay. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what the structure is. I've not been living and breathing the regent. If I know there's an amendment to remove it from the Constitution, but I thought that was just going to take autonomy away from the Board of Regents. Because I really don't know how to answer your question because I'm not familiar with those policies or aspects. And can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Because Amy brought up there is no degree for I know of one individual I think that doesn't have a degree. Is that what that is regarding, or like there is no prerequisite that you have to have a high school, more than a high school education to serve on the Board of Regents currently?
My understanding is that the only requirement to be a member of the Board of Regents and stand for election is to be a voter in the district.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question that it'll go to Amy first, but it's a specific example about structure, so that may help. So it has been proposed to separate the community colleges from the system apart from the universities, or have separate boards of trustees for each institution. What's your position about that? And Amy first.
I don't support that in Nevada. We're such a small state and we have such a small system with 8 institutions. I would imagine that if we split the community colleges from the rest of the system, the community colleges would probably lose out on even more money. I think the funding formula as it stands today isn't can hurt community colleges, but I think that separating them out would hurt the community colleges more in our state. You're muted, Kent.
Sorry. Thank you, Amy. So John, what's your thoughts about the idea of splitting up the system into community college separately, or each institution having a separate board?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's enough brass out there, and if you're not familiar with that term, that's just too much management. If Amy says 8 is small, then I agree. And as far as splitting it up further, I think we just have to represent the community colleges, and if they feel like they're being shorted, there may be a reason that they're not quite up to par, so we can look at their aspects. But yeah, I would not split them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I do have one question so far from the audience. And we will go in opposite order of how we answered the last question. So this will go to John first. Speaking of 8 institutions, it is only 8, but it is a lot of people within those institutions. So Regents oversee thousands of faculty, professional staff, and of course, our students across those 8 institutions, and they have very distinct missions. What do you think Regents should do to make themselves aware of the on-the-ground distinct experiences and perspectives of these constituents?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you need to talk to those constituents, make appearances at the schools, have a forum so that they can relay their concerns, because you're representing their interests as much as they elected you. I feel that you know, it just comes down to open transparency. You can't manage an ivory tower. You have to be familiar with what's going on, and you have to be willing to have difficult conversations and ask difficult questions and make difficult decisions.
Amy, same question.
I would definitely agree that it's important for all of the regents to be involved at each institution. I think that that is how you find out what the culture is there and how things really are working at each institution is by being there, and not only when the president invites you. Not to just show up on campus. I know people don't like that either, and I haven't done that, but I think it's important to go to you know, faculty senate, or when the student leaders invite regents to campus. I think it's very important for us to see our constituents face to face in their communities and where they are. And so I think that that's really important for all regents in order to do their jobs well, to do is show up on campus.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are actually at the end. We have time for some closing statements. These will go in opposite order of how we started. So we'll actually have John go first again here. So this is really for you, a couple minutes to give closing statements, you know, based on our questions we've asked or anything else that we didn't ask. They'd want to make sure that we know. So again, John, you have the floor.
Yeah, so, you know, why did I start to run for Board of Regent? I basically wanted to give back to my community. I recognize that Nevada has lots of challenges, but at the same time, you have an opportunity. And I believe that, you know, when people get involved and when people care, we can all make a difference. And I was planning to give back to my community, and I thought about Board of Regent because I've served in the military, I've done higher education, and I just felt that that would be the opportunity to learn about my community and to see what challenges await, because I've had a lot of experience in dealing with various challenges throughout my life, and I've overcome all of them.
Thank you. Amy.
Thanks. Well, I want to say thank you to the NFA. You've all been very, very kind to me and very supportive, and I hope that you feel my support. Faculty has been very important to me, and I think that I have done well to support you in my 5.5 years on the board. I appreciate the work that you do. I know that it's not an easy job, but I hope that you'll support me as I look for my re-election, and I appreciate you doing these forums. They're important for you and all faculty to hear what the candidates stand for and kind of who we are. So I thank you for doing this work.
Thank you. All right. So that concludes our time together. We are planning to conduct a few more of these. We have a number of districts where there are elections this year. We are, as you know, recording, and so we will make this recording available to all of our members who couldn't be here today. And then eventually we will be making our choices for endorsement, and we will be contacting you then. I don't know if Jim or Kent, there's anything else you wanted to make sure to add before we wrap up?
No, just to extend my thanks to both of you who for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts with us. Very important, as Chantel mentioned, we're in the midst of the endorsement process, and it's always an exciting and informative time for us. But we know how busy it can be for you, especially. So thank you for that. And I'll see if Kent has anything to add there.
I'll just add that if either of you have questions or want to have a cup of coffee to discuss things, learn more, we are always happy to do that and to have those.
Always up for coffee.
Say the people in the north. Yes, we are. We are up for coffee at all times. Yes, thank you again. I know campaign season can be busy, and it's on top of your regular lives and those goings on. So we do appreciate this hour of time. We know it's not always easy to find it, but we will definitely let you know the decisions we make on the other side of this. All right, and thank you to everyone else who came. Appreciate you very much, your time as well, and we will see hopefully some of you at our next forum.